Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview, where we take a look at the stories being followed in the upcoming edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined today by North Coast Journal's Arts and Features Editor, Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, and North Coast Journal staff writer, Iridian Casares. Welcome, guys.
How you doing, Dave?
Pretty good. I have to say it's like pretty cool here on the North Coast, and that's in comparison to like these heat domes that are all around where people are like 115 plus. It seems a little unbearable, and I'm real thankful that we're in a place right here where the redwood trees grow in cool Pacific air, and it's a great time to be cool.
True. We're reveling in that now, and actually our cover story speaks to that somewhat.
Oh, right on. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about, segue. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys are covering this week on the cover story?
Well, this week, if you grab a journal, you'll see an enormous, very sleepy, shaggy looking elk on our cover. And this is Mark Larson's photo essay and really pretty excellent travel guide for Prairie Creek Redwood State Park. And he has been traveling all over our county, especially during the pandemic when there hasn't been much else to do. So he and his wife spent a lot of lockdown going all over the county, taking these really long walks and hikes and whatnot. And they spent a lot of time at this park and visiting all different trails on it. And he got to know it very well, pretty much year round. And so what he came up with was a really good guide to finding your way around the park and, you know, where to find waterfalls, where to go if you don't want much of an incline, and with some really gorgeous shots of the very, very just diverse landscape. There's like a little tall, skinny waterfall. There are fields. And if you go online and see the slideshow once it's live on Thursday, it's wild. It's a wild it's a tour of very much of Humboldt landscapes, you know what I mean? And it feels good to look at, and hopefully will inspire some people to go out and enjoy it and take care of it while they're out.
So shameless plug, that is my favorite place to go hiking. And it's my go-to. It's where I take visitors, and there's so many cool places there. You've got Fern Canyon, you've got the elk herd. It's just an incredible Prairie Creek Trail. There's so many more details in the article. Anything stand out for you about highlights from pictures or descriptions that he might have included in that article?
You know, I think what I just really enjoy is Mark's joy at all of it. And, he's like, for all of his photography, he's about the opposite of like an Instagram influencer. There's like full transparency. He'll be like, well, we went here because there are really great photo opportunities, or like, and he takes they're just great photos. He's really concerned with his subject and really wanting you to share in it. And I think you can just really feel in the slideshow his enthusiasm for all these places, with like a little bridge here, a busted sign there. My personal favorite is not actually a landscape image, but it is a danger sign for when the mother elk are around with their calves. And it is it's a warning sign silhouette of an elk on its hind legs, absolutely pummeling a poor stick figure person who's like running from it. And I don't know, I want the t-shirt, I want the tote bag, I want all of it. It's great.
So if you go there in the fall, sometimes the males have their like tongue hanging out as they like sort of corral the visitors away from their herd. And it's a kind of a fun thing to see tourists engaging with wild animals that they're like, oh, I should pet it. And you're like, the tongue and the anger, you should probably read between the lines.
Yeah, there's actually a place called Nara in Japan where all the deer are tame and you can feed them and pet them. This is not that place. Elk will mess you up. And so Mark actually had an experience where he describes being on a trail, and at the head of the trail, a bull came up and blocked his path, like, you're not going. And the only way they were able to move it so that Mark could exit was a ranger who saw them hopped in his pickup truck and drove over to kind of like gently, like not touching, but, urge the elk to move away so that Mark could pass by. But, don't take no elk selfies. Don't do it.
So there's a lot of great guidance on where to find things and see things there in the park. But in addition to Mark's writing, you also contributed a piece there, which I think we could pivot to now. Tell us a little bit about that monument that got taken down.
Well, it's interesting. Mark actually tipped me off to this a few weeks ago. He was on one of his trips in the park and came across folks pulling a huge, what is it, like 19,000 pound rock boulder thing. How big does it have to be a boulder? It's a boulder. It's very Flintstone. It's giant, with a plaque on it. They were pulling that off and removing the plaque, and the plaque was being stuffed in the back of somebody's car. And he came and photographed it. And what it was is a plaque for Madison Grant. And it was a park or a part of the park, as he mentions, there's like 111 memorial meadows, memorial areas
groves
in the park. Yes, groves. Thank
groves.
you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Meadows, groves. I don't get out a lot. Anyway, so the formerly Madison Grant Forest and Elk Refuge marker was being removed because Madison Grant was a terrible person. Not just a terrible person, but a historic level terrible person. And before all the people who love to defend statues get upset and say, we cannot erase our history and we can't judge people by today's standard. Yes, we can. You just take a seat for a minute and wait till we're done, because you're not going to want to stand up for this guy. Not only was he a conservationist with Save the Redwoods League, which has since, by the way, disavowed his ideology, and taken great pains to do so publicly. Not only was he interested in conserving redwood trees, but he was interested in them because they were to him the apex species, the king of kings in the plant world, that he wanted to preserve for, wait for it, the white race, which he also considered the apex species. He didn't just believe this, and we can't just brush it off as something that was like, oh, an old-fashioned way of thinking. He died in 1937, so not that far back. But he was a eugenicist who promoted eugenics. He wrote a book called The Passing of the Great Race, which was all about this, all about his bizarre bunk science theories about how the size of your head, or, the shape of your bones, or, the color of your skin all determined your abilities, your aptitudes, your proclivities, and your morality. It's disgusting. And it's not only disgusting, but it led to some really disgusting things. His book, which, he promoted all these theories, and he promoted, in those theories, promoted laws really restricting immigration based on racist beliefs. So based on the idea that, well, people from this part of the world are sketchy, so we're going to only allow this many of them in. These people are too sketchy. We're not going to allow any in. In fact, the Immigration Act of 1924 was heavily based on his book, The Passing of the Great Race, and horrendous. It didn't stop there. The new interpretive sign that is going to be in the place of, or not necessarily in the place of, but it's going to be in that part of the park, is going to explain, hey, this monument used to be here and here's why it's gone. And it explains his connection to eugenics and his beliefs and his work with Nazis. So he's described in the new interpretive sign as being a regular contributor to Nazism. But I spoke to a professor at Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, who is a historian and who specializes in kind of like history of race in America, among other things. And he teaches about Madison Grant in his class, and was horrified to find that there was a monument to him. And he and two other colleagues prepared a letter signed by some more than 200 other scholars who all requested that the parks remove the monument. But he explained a little bit more to me about, kind of the importance of what Madison Grant was doing and how it impacted not just American immigration and American life, but the world. He was, in fact, till the end of his life in 1937, collaborating, working together with Hermann Goering, who was Hitler's right-hand man and who came up with the Nuremberg race laws, which outlined who was they referred to it as a racial Jew, which is not a thing. But they came up with it as a standard calculation to see who should be stripped of German citizenship and then removed from the population. And as we know, eventually, killed. And so his work, not only a book he wrote that was, taken and extrapolated upon, but his direct conversations, working together and collaboration with actual Nazis, contributed to, the Holocaust. It's unconscionable. And if you're wondering how important his work was to the Nazis, Hitler at one point wrote him what the professor from Santa Barbara described as a fanboy letter. A fanboy letter from the Fuhrer. That's not good. He referred to, according to Professor Spickard, he referred to Madison Grant's book, The Passing of the Great Race, as, quote, my Bible. So just take it in, ask yourself if you still want to fight for this particular plaque. I'm guessing you don't. And interestingly enough, I also spoke to some folks from the park who were talking about some of the reason that the monument was first put up. And there's a fellow there who does the education and outreach, Marnin Robbins, and he said something really interesting to me, which was that the monument was not put there by the parks people. It was put there in 1948, I believe, by friends of Madison Grant who wanted to rehab his image. So after the war, Nazism, not a great look after World War II. So in order to rehab his image, they made this plaque and they put on it that he was an author, an anthropologist, and a conservationist. And in regard to, he was an author, but in regard to conservationist and anthropologist, Robbins said to me, he was none of those things. He was a socialite with rich friends. And he used some of that influence to do this wonderful thing of preserving these trees that we wouldn't have otherwise. And so, yes, we have to acknowledge that. But he also said that, he also used that influence just, honestly for evil. And I think what's really interesting to me about the park's approach is that it's not just removing the plaque and then trying to say like we never did this, but they're including all this information, or at least a summary of this information, on the new interpretive sign to let people know that, yeah, some of the people who were involved in the Save the Redwoods League were, horrible, the worst of us. And I think that, Professor Spickard said something to me while we were talking. He said, we don't want to erase the past, but we do want to put it in context. For 73 years, we have honored this man without thinking about the main stuff he did with his life. And we need to think about that. Yeah, I think we've had lots of discussions about this in Humboldt County, certainly the discussions about the McKinley statue. I'm sure everybody's like, can we just be done? But I think Madison Grant is a really presents an opportunity for us to have a conversation about how, you know, preservation and how the parks have been in the past and what they can be in the future, how much more inclusive they can be.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, the park is an amazing place, and now it's like a teaching moment also. So like two things can be true at once. You can be a Save the Redwoods League founder, co-founder, and also somebody who informs some of the worst hate and death in our planet's history.
Trash.
Well, thanks a lot, Jennifer. People definitely go check it out. Go check out the park too, but the guide in there is really, it's accurate and informative. So thanks. How about you, Iridion? What's going on with the article that you've got in this week's journal?
Yeah, so ahead of the 4th of July weekend, I wrote an article about the city of Eureka's efforts to stop illegal fireworks from going off. So I talk about this group of citizens who are really, really tired and fed up of all of these illegal fireworks going off. And illegal fireworks are those really loud ones that go up into the air and like explode, and then sparklers, into the air. And so there's this group that really wanted to do something about it. They have pets in their families, they have veterans with PTSD, and so they decided to go to the city of Eureka, the city council, and tell them, hey, we're really tired of this and we really want to make it easier to catch these people setting off these fireworks. And so City of Eureka said, okay, we hear your concerns. And so they created an online portal where people can go and report hearing any illegal fireworks. And so that it makes it easier for EPD to investigate these reports, because, I was talking to them and they said that, investigating illegal fireworks is really hard because they can go off so quickly, and they, people can run into their houses or go hide. And so it's just kind of really timely. And so they're hoping that the reports just kind of the online portal gives more details into where it was in the neighborhood, if there was a specific house that were setting them off, if there were any vehicles involved. And so, yeah, it's just, they're trying to work together on this. And I think the group's main concern is when fireworks are lit, not on 4th of July. So just kind of on random nights. And as someone who has a dog who's like super afraid of booms, I can totally attest to what they're saying. And so, yeah, and there was actually an incident that I talk about in my story. In a Pine Hill neighborhood, there was I think the woman's name was Margie Olmsted, who had a horse that was spooked by an illegal firework going off on New Year's. And the horse got scared and ran into a chain link fence and had severe injuries and was later euthanized because it was just, it couldn't be saved. And so they are really, really tired of these fireworks going off and really hopeful and encouraged that this form could possibly help with that.
Right on. So one of the things I really liked about your article is that it says, look, it's 4th of July, and people, there are certain fireworks that are legal. I think they're called Safe and Sane. Is the Safe and Sane?
They have the,
Can you tell us a little bit
label
about what people can do, and then like what are people actually fighting against, which is different than that?
Yes, definitely. So in Humboldt County, I believe the Safe and Sane ones, the ones you see at the fireworks stands, like at local grocery stores, those are okay to use, because they're approved by the California Fire Marshal, and they're safe. I think in Woodley Island and Old Town, any types of fireworks aren't allowed. So like if you're gonna go watch the show, this weekend, make sure you don't take any sparklers, anything, because it's a historic old town, and so it's protected. So that was something that EPD Captain Brian Stevens told me to really reiterate to people, is that not to bring any types of fireworks into Old Town or Woodley Island.
Right on. So anything else stand out to you? So between like there's things you can do, there's things you can't do. But then like I guess there's a tone in there where you say like what these folks are really, they want the respect and the calm and quiet, right? Like really it's the non-legal ones during off times that are really at play here. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of a woman that I talked to, Jean Scheffler, she said that she's all for fireworks on 4th of July because she can then plan, tranquilizing her dogs or just setting up, loud TVs and getting ready for those fireworks and being there for her dogs, because I think her issue is that her dogs get really, really severe anxiety from fireworks. And so she's all for it. It's just in the off season, or around a week after 4th of July or weeks before 4th of July is when it's just a little more problematic. And she told me that last Friday she was awoken by like a series of illegal fireworks that were like shaking her windows, and it was just, it was unexpected and unplanned for, so she couldn't really get ready for them.
Well, right on. Thank you so much. There's a lot more in there too, but I think the idea is that we can have a safe and peaceful 4th of July if we kind of respect each other a little bit and follow some basic guidelines.
Yeah, totally.
Right on. Well, thanks a lot. I look forward to connecting with you again, hear more about what you're covering in the future. Jennifer, any last thoughts at all about what you're covering on the arts and features beat before we wrap up this week?
Well, I will say there's a theme at work because Colin Yo in his set list this week does mention that, for the sake of dogs and other people, but also because of wildfires, maybe lay off the whatever you dragged back from Nevada or whatever, whatever explosives you brought illegally. I get it. It's fun. It's exciting, but maybe not in the middle of perhaps another terrible wildfire season. And be considerate of other people. But he does have some shows in there that he recommends you going to see in lieu of blowing things up in your driveway. Including, I think there was a group called Icarus and Sons that he had been very excited about last week. That show is happening this weekend. If you are looking for a little something on the healthy side, I know a lot of times the recipes in the journal are just like, and another pound of butter, and we're naughty. I get it. We're bad. We love cheese. What? But this week, Simona Carini is giving us all a gastrointestinal break by adding for us a chia pudding dessert recipe / breakfast with seasonal fruit, which is shockingly healthy and really nice. So something for you to enjoy with the fruit from the farmer's market or the regular market, etc. So thank you, Simona.
Right on. Lots more to check out in there. That's just about going to do it for us this week. North Coast Journal is on newsstands now. Pick one up online. You can just check them out there. Stay informed. Stay safe. Ridian and Jennifer, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys again soon.
See you next week.